Sure.
Might as well.
All right. So, you may have received an email from the club with an invitation to take a survey about what you enjoy about the club and what you don't enjoy about the club. Who here finished that survey?
Both
It's
parts.
still open, so if you, even though we're gonna have a little presentation about the results of that so far and what it means for what we're doing and what we might wanna consider changing or not changing, it is still open and we'll probably do one last look at it before we publish it in the next issue of the W.A.S. So if you would like to submit anything, just fill in that survey. And without further ado, I am going to give you the person who originally signed us up for the SurveyMonkey account and set it up, Diane Hall, not a current board member, but still spending way too much of her free time on running things for the club. Diane.
Thank you. Can you all hear me in the back?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so earlier this year, the current Board of Officers decided this was a good time to poll the membership to see what can be done to enhance the Society's long-term sustainability. Member engagement, member retention, officer recruitment. We've got elections coming up, as ever, in November. This is, some of us call this the greatest astronomy club in Michigan. It's a large club. We have a full slate of activities every month, and we have a 7-person board of officers that has to turn over at least once every 2 years. So your present board is interested in seeing what the priorities of the membership are and finding ways to keep people invested in the future of this club, because we think it's a pretty special club. As a former president with experience in membership surveys, thanks to the 10-odd years I spent as a union officer, I was invited to take part in designing. I've worked with SurveyMonkey in the past, and so we went through SurveyMonkey to get an easily digestible short survey out to you all through email. So here's the results of the first survey, which was an overview. Number 1, is it worth the money to be a member of the W.A.S? Most people say yes. We prefer it to be 100%, but we're glad that most of you think it's...
Hell said no!
Hey, we wanted honesty, okay? And some of these answers are pretty cutting and honest. So we're glad as many of you think that it's worth the money as you do. Number 2, are you proud to be a member? Thank you. We're proud to be part of, your lives.
Same guy.
Then it gets a little deeper. Do you tell your friends, family, and coworkers about the club's activity? Slightly fewer people. Now it could be not because they're not proud, not because you might have friends, family, or coworkers who don't like astronomy and have told you to be quiet about it. So we understand. But nonetheless, this isn't just a big part of your lives. You're going out and talking to the people you care about most outside of this room about it. Next question. Why are you a member of the Warren Astronomical Society? Are you here to learn about the universe? Are you here to learn how to use your telescope? Are you here to learn about how to do advanced astronomy? Are you here for the observing opportunities? Are you here for outreach? Is your main passion teaching people? And lastly, are you here for the social interaction? Most people are here for the social interaction. We like this. This is something that we do not because of any one thing, though plenty of people are here for the observing opportunities. We like spending time together. And then when we crunch the numbers, 29% of the people who responded so far to the survey, 29 to 39, that's the primary thing. That's pretty cool, actually. Now, as far as the second and third tier answers, we are here to learn about the universe. We are here for observing opportunities. Not so much for outreach, at least in terms of the people who responded to the survey, and not so much as to learning how to use a telescope, which might just mean that most of the people who respond to the survey are more advanced astronomers who already know.
Or, I mean, it might have some other parameters that the outreach program is not reaching people efficiently.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, okay.
So, final question, or fifth question, did you or will you renew your membership in 2019? Again, we'd love to have it be 100%, but most people definitely will. Some people probably will. Some people won't. Well, part of this survey, again, is for people to be honest in identifying, what would keep you from renewing, what would keep you from coming back. We're doing good, but you can always, as an organization, do better. So then we got into a more complex question about what events do people attend. So this is big, but up at the top, the green bar is Cranbrook. Then we've got Macomb, the Stargate Free Open Houses, Discussion Group, the Picnic, the Annual Awards Banquet in December, the Great Lakes Stargaze, Astronomy at the Beach, one of them, of course, being a dark sky, more private amateur astronomy focused event, the other one being our main public outreach event of the year. Astronomy Day in general, and then other outreach type things. Cranbrook and Macomb are roughly equally popular, and they are our most popular offerings, followed by the open house, followed by Astronomy at the Beach. That doesn't mean that the picnic isn't a big draw, it is. The banquet is a draw. 13 respondents regularly say they go to Discussion Group, which if you attend Discussion Group, yeah, that's pretty accurate. And only a handful, 6 people, reported that they go to the dark sky event of the Great Lakes Stargaze. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. So since Cranbrook and Macomb are equally popular, a suggestion that comes up every now and again, including during the course of this survey, well, why do we have 2 meetings? If it's so complicated, why don't we eliminate one? What do you eliminate? They're both really popular. It's a difference of 4 people. For a lot of people, that is club attendance, is going to those meetings. So, now that we've identified what people say they're interested in, what barriers to participation do members face? What would make people more likely to attend events? Shorter meetings? Fewer meetings? Things closer to their houses? Things tailored to their interests? How about backup dates for open houses in the case of inclement weather? We're in Michigan, open houses get affected every few months. Members-only observing events, dark sky events, having more mentorship. And there were a couple of very popular answers. People would like the members-only open house dates, but even more than that, they say they want dark sky observing, darker than what Stargate can provide.
Living in the wrong place.
What's that?
It was a whisper. I said, we're living in the wrong place.
More interesting presentation topics also came up, so that may be something for a future poll to find out where people's targeted interests actually are. But in discussing these preliminary results with your board, we brought up some things about, well, we do have 6 dark sky public preserves in Michigan. We do have allied astronomy clubs that have access to dark sky sites like Port Crescent up in the Thumb. So that's something that it's not an easy fix, but the board can work on it. And this also does indicate that just shortening meetings or eliminating meetings from the schedule isn't really getting to the heart of any sort of barriers that people have to participating in the club. We also had some free-form responses to question 7. Having a dedicated member observing subgroup, which technically we do. It's the hands-on subgroup and it meets at Stargate open houses, but perhaps that's not accessible enough. Perhaps Stargate is too far for some people. That may be something the board can follow up on, talk about with the Stargate committee, see if the member observing subgroup can be a little more versatile. Access to the observatory on clear nights that are not pre-planned. That's something that periodically We do have spontaneous clear observing nights at Stargate, but again, you have to have somebody open the dome, you have to have, sometimes these days we have to deal with the park security, so it's something the board can work on. It's not super quick, but it's something we can keep in mind. Other members said things like, I attend everything. I would help more, but I need more hours in my day. We sympathize. And finally, moving back to Michigan would be a start. The board can't fix that, but we feel it. So question 8, we looked at the issue of encouraging new officers and new subgroup captains. And in terms of do you or would you ever volunteer to be a board member, a subcommittee captain, a presenter, an outreach volunteer, odd jobs like bringing the dry goods for the snacks or selling merch. People aren't so interested in that. People really like the club as it is, but not so much the taking on some of the roles that the board thinks maybe needs to be taken. So that is the kind of tension that we wanted to identify. So if anything, the membership appears to love this busy slate of activities we have and would like more. But we're going to need more than 30–40% of people interested in making these things happen in order to pull off regular dark sky observing sessions. So that's really a takeaway for everybody in the room. As far as, at least only 5 people said they just flat out weren't interested. That's good. We also had some free-form answers to this. We had 27 responses. 11 basically affirmed that members like the things as they are and think the board is doing a good job, which is great to hear, but the board wants to do better, so they really were looking for constructive input. So we did get some very thoughtful, constructive criticism, some of it pithy one-sentence phrases. One of them was an entire paragraph with some very interesting things embedded in the paragraph. And among the suggestions we got were food for a follow-up survey. And we will get into that right now. So we went from the initial survey right into the follow-up that is still in your inbox. These were more in-depth questions. There were only 5, but they took almost as long as the original 8-question survey. So think back to when you were a new member. What made you feel comfortable and welcome? Was it easily identifiable club ambassadors? Was it getting to know people at low-pressure social events? Was it already knowing people that you then followed into the club? Was it hanging out on our social media? No overwhelming trends here, other than people are not that interested in the social media, but it did give the board some fairly easy action items about member recruitment. We do need to step up the welcome wagon at meetings. We're very thankful to John Blum for the forms he's been handing out for years. And for spearheading name tags. These are things that people would like to be able to identify easy people to talk to at meetings. So another takeaway is that idea of a lower pressure observing night, a lower pressure kind of social hour. Pitched at the board meeting today, so we've kind of got that idea out there. Don't know what shape it will take, but it's a really good idea. We had some member responses free-form to this. Name badges, we do have them. They are opt-in. We could probably do a more aggressive job at pitching them. Seeing presentations that interest me. That's what hooked me into the club in 2007. It was one of Gary Ross's trademark brands, but I was sold. Having club members come up and talk to me. This person said it worked for them, but these weren't easily identifiable club members. I don't know if we have to get a special hat for people to wear, but something. And finally, a union hall at contract atmosphere at meetings, which as a former union rep, this had me really concerned. I hope they mean we're an engaged and passionate group and not like there's a sort of a prevailing torches and pitchfork mood in the back of the room. Okay. I think that's a good comment. I was a little scared. Then we had another complicated question. So this orange and azure next to a category means members are very to extremely interested in that part of a meeting. Blue and green mean members are interested slightly or not at all. So, are people interested in seeing the board meeting? Not really. Introductions? Not so much. Officer reports? Not so much. Okay. Outreach calendar? Yeah. Observing reports? Yes. Asking astronomy questions? Yes. In the news in the sky? Yeah. Short talk and long talk? Absolutely. And then the post-meeting snacks? Yeah, you know, slightly lower numbers. It fits basically what you see when you're at a meeting as far as engagement goes and who goes to the post-meeting snacks, but again, it's nice to have the data points to back up what the officers thought was already going on. And it was nice to know that the short and long presentations are the single most key part of these meetings that we have, because we're very proud of being able to offer you that much original content in the case of a year. So as far as the weighted averages, in case the colors were a little disorienting, we weighted it on a scale of 1 to 5. So observing reports, for instance, rated a very high 3.86 versus only 3.07 for snack break. Frankly, I'm surprised snack break was at 5. But the feature presentation and the short talk tied at 4.27. That's what people really like. Question 2 had some free-form answers. Some people did think feature presentations were too long, but that wasn't the prevailing sentiment, so I don't think, other than enforcing it when people go past the hour mark, much is going to come out of that. We had some comments about in the news. So in the news would be very interesting if it covered one story in depth instead of many stories superficially. This came up about 5 different times in different places in the course of these surveys. So as you saw tonight, the board is experimenting with a different format. And then we had a comment, many of the discussion topics I can find on YouTube, but observing opportunities can't be found in that. That is something for the board to chew on. Question 3, again we've got the color bars. How useful do members find our online resources? And what we found was our existing members, overwhelmingly, are not interested in our social media feeds. They are interested in the website, they're interested in the W.A.S, and they're not as interested as we thought they might be in our email blasts. And they're very keen on having an event calendar, and refinements to the event calendar to make it more accessible are something the board's been discussing.
Diana, are we going to talk about any of these subjects? Like this one right here is.
I'm just
I think
presenting,
there are very good reasons.
right now.
I think there's very good reasons for that response.
Jim, I'm just presenting on what we got,
okay? Thank you.
One thing we learned is that a lot of members don't even know that we have all the social media resources that we do. Also, people were surprised to know Yahoo still exists. Question 4, what would make you more likely to volunteer for outreach? So the board has always felt, at least in the past 12 years I've been here, we're an outreach organization. We want to have an outreach culture. And rather than more hands-on technology type demonstrations, it seems like people really want more clear instruction on what to expect at outreach events and a higher sense of what the club values. So we clearly value astronomy at the beach, but we can't take that for granted. We value, say, the Perseid Star Party that we do in conjunction with the Mentor Parks every year. We need to get that across to people so that they know these are our keystone premier events, and this is what you can expect if you show up. Again, a more comprehensive event calendar also had a lot of support. Written manuals, not so much, but you don't know without asking. Here's the numbers on that one. So better communication, better instruction. And finally, some member response highlights the suggestion that people buddy up and have newer members participate as a quote-unquote second banana during outreach. That's a good one. Basic curricula. And somebody said, I do outreach in my job, so I'm not going to do additional outreach. Whoever wrote that, we completely hear and respect you. You know, that's how I feel about computers on my telescope. I dealt with a computer every day at work, not touching one with astronomy. So, that's fair.
We definitely endorse being less involved in other clubs.
And finally, we had a question aimed at recruiting new officers and new subgroup captains. So, which of these would make you more likely to volunteer for one of these critical roles that keeps the club functioning? Seeing a written description of your expected responsibilities was a big one. Seeing a video on how to do it, not so much. Having more time to spend on it and living closer to meetings comes up again. A lot of people are crunched for time. Board really can't help with that, but we do, again, feel you. Mentoring from current people. So, there's an overall sense that there needs to be a better framework of communication for expectations of members, whether they're doing outreach or they're volunteering for positions. And that is something we can work on, even if we can't help where you live. So, some of the member responses we want to highlight: there's no need to have 2 meetings per month. Everything can be accomplished at 1 meeting. Maybe it can, but the overall sense from all the data we collected is that's not going to help the core issue. People like having 2 meetings. People like our presentations. We need to figure out how to make it easier to stage that. No membership dues for the board. That's something that this current board actually has taken up, but different ways to incentivize people to join. And then there was an interesting one about dividing up officer responsibilities, which is considered to be a best practice, but we already have a 7-member board, so subdividing those between additional people would get you 14 officers. We're having trouble recruiting 7. I don't know that we could recruit 14 people even at reduced roles. So it's something to think about, but it's hard to see how we'd implement that with the structure we've got. And I know I've kept you in the snack break a bit, but that is the basic overview. I'm not available to answer questions on this. I am just the messenger. If you want to talk about it in depth, board members are here for snack break. Board members may be at the Red Coat tonight, but there will be more to come on this.
And come to the discussion group too. We had a really great discussion of the preliminary feedback from the survey at the last discussion. Also, if you want to see the detailed responses and all the plain text responses, they're all here at the front of the room. So if you want more data, here it is.
Also, I would say we need people to be the change they want to see in the club. We're all for suggestions, but suggestions are great, but we need people to implement those suggestions. And the best way to get this club to do the things you want it to do is to take my job. So do that. All right, so I can now say with data behind me, it's time for everyone's favorite part of the night, the socializing, which, anyway. It's our snack time. Our snack volunteer is the illustrious John Blum. Thank you so much for bringing our snacks.
Also our presenter, so.
Also our presenter and our new member ambassador. So please put $1 in the donation. It helps reimburse our snack volunteer, and the excess goes to our Paul Strong Scholarship. If you guys have any questions or comments, please see me or any of the other board members at the break. And we will see you at 9 for our main presentation.